Today, we're jumping into an absolutely epic story, how the world's largest democracy literally wrote its own rulebook. This is the making of the Indian Constitution. Let's dive right in.
So, just think about it for a second. How do you even begin to do that? After centuries of foreign rule, a new nation finally gets the chance to define everything, its future, its laws, its very soul. That's the monumental task we're gonna unpack today.
Now, you might think this story kicks off right around 1947 with independence, but nope, we have to go back way further. It all started decades before with this really simple but incredibly powerful idea that Indians, and only Indians, should be the ones to write their own destiny.
And this wasn't an overnight thing. Just look at this timeline. It shows a real long-haul struggle. The idea first pops up way back in 1924, and from there, it's 22 years of constant, relentless pushing. A huge turning point was in 1938 when Nehru basically said, "We're doing this ourselves," without any outside interference. That really changed the game. It went from a maybe to a we have to do this. And finally, in 1946, the Cabinet Mission Plan gives the green light and the stage is finally set.
Okay, so they got the yes they've been fighting for. But now what? Who are the actual people who are going to sit down and write this thing? That was the next giant hurdle, putting together the group that would build the nation's blueprint, the Constituent Assembly.
The number they started with was 389. Just think about that. 389 people, chosen to represent literally every single corner of a huge, incredibly diverse, and at that point, still undivided India. I mean, what a monumental gathering that must have been.
And this chart really shows you just how complicated that was. This assembly wasn't just one big group. Not at all. It was more like a complex puzzle, a delicate mix of people who were elected from British India, alongside members who are nominated by the rulers of the independent princely states. It was basically a miniature version of the entire subcontinent, all in one room.
But then, as always, history had other plans. The Mountbatten Plan of June 1947, partition. This changed everything, and it changed it fast. It had a massive, immediate impact on the assembly, because all the members from the areas that were about to become Pakistan had to withdraw. And just like that, the number dropped, from 389 down to 299. And this was the group that was left. 299 people who now had the entire weight of a new nation's future resting squarely on their shoulders. No pressure, right?
So how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. To tackle this enormous job, they broke it down, creating a bunch of key committees. And look at the absolute titans who led them. You've got Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the legal genius, the chief architect of the whole thing. Jawaharlal Nehru, who was focused on the powers of the central government. Sardar Patel, handling the incredibly tricky job of bringing all the provinces together. And Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was like the master conductor, skillfully steering the whole orchestra.
All right, the team was assembled. The architects were in place. Now the real work, the monumental task of actually forging the Constitution, could finally get underway.
So try to picture this. It's December 9th, 1946. 211 members are gathering for the very first time. But there's already a shadow hanging over the room. The Muslim League is boycotting the meeting, which was a pretty sobering sign of the tough times ahead. For the first order of business, they followed the French tradition and elected the oldest member, Dr. Sakchidayan Dasina, as their temporary president. Just a few days after that, Nehru stood up and introduced what's known as the Objective Resolution, and you really can't overstate how important this was. This was the very soul, the beating heart of the new Constitution. With his powerful words, he turned it from just another document into a solemn promise, a pledge that laid out the core values they were fighting for: justice, liberty, equality, and sovereignty for all.
Now, once India became independent, the assembly had to do something pretty incredible. They had to wear two hats at the same time. It's like, imagine you're an architect designing a brand new skyscraper, but at the exact same time, you're also the building manager for the old office block next door. So some days they were the constituent body, chaired by Dr. Rajendra Prasad, drafting the Constitution for the future. And on other days, they were the legislative body, chaired by G.V. Mavalanka, passing the everyday laws the country needed right then and there. What an incredible balancing act.
Okay, let's talk about the drafting committee. If the whole assembly was the factory, this committee was the engine room. This was where the real heavy lifting happened. Led by the absolutely brilliant Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, this small team of just 7 people had this just colossal job. They had to take years of debates, pull ideas from the constitutions of dozens of other countries, and sift through all these passionate resolutions and somehow weave it all together into one single logical legal document. Wow.
And how long did all this take? Get this, 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days. Let that sink in. That's almost 3 solid years. 3 years of debating, arguing, and carefully refining every single clause. It was a true marathon, not just of writing, but of incredible intellectual and political effort.
So, you might be wondering, what does something like this cost? What's the price tag for building the foundation of a nation? Well, it came to 64 lakh rupees. Now, that was a huge amount of money back then, for sure. But when you think about it, it was an absolutely invaluable investment in the very bedrock of a new India.
Okay, so after all that work, the debating was done, the final text was ready, the ink was dry. Now it was time for the final act, to bring this incredible document to life and officially, finally, launch the Republic of India.
The grand finale really happened in 3 key steps. First up, on November 26, 1949, the document was formally adopted. 284 members signed their names to it. That's a date we now celebrate as Constitution Day. Then, on January 24, 1950, they held their very last session, adopting the national anthem and song. And then came the big one, January 26, 1950, the day the Constitution fully came into force and India officially became a republic.
But why that specific date? Why January 26th? Well, it wasn't random. That date is packed with historical meaning. They chose it to honor the day back in 1930 when the Indian National Congress made a bold declaration of POORNA SWARAJ, which means complete independence from the British. So choosing that day was a powerful way to connect the new republic directly to the very heart of the long freedom struggle.
And just like that, the blueprint for a nation was complete. But, a blueprint is just a piece of paper, right? It's just a guide. The real ongoing story, the one that's still being written, is how this remarkable document, created over 70 years ago, continues to guide and shape the lives of more than 1 billion people in the world's largest democracy today. Now that is something to think about.